She can't be the flower girl, my sister-in-law, Amanda, declared, her perfectly manicured nails drumming against her wedding planner. I mean, look at how she walks. It'll ruin the whole ceremony. My heart clenched as I glanced at my 6-year-old daughter, Lily, who was happily coloring at the kitchen table, blissfully unaware that her aunt was crushing her dream of being a flower girl. Lily had been practicing her walk for weeks, despite her cerebral palsy making each step a challenge. "She's your niece, Amanda," I said, keeping my voice steady despite the anger building inside me. "She's been talking about this for months." Amanda rolled her eyes, a gesture I'd grown all too familiar with over the years. "This is my perfect day, Sarah. I can't have her wobbling down the aisle, making everyone uncomfortable. I've already asked my friend's daughter to do it. She's just more suitable." More suitable. The words hit me like a slap. I looked at Lily again, at her determined little face as she concentrated on staying within the lines of her coloring book. Every crayon stroke was a victory for her, every day a testament to her strength. "Mom," Lily called out, her voice bright with excitement. "Look what I made. It's for Aunt Amanda's wedding." She held up her drawing, a picture of herself in a pink dress, throwing flower petals. The lines were wobbly, but the joy in the crayon figure's smile was unmistakable. Amanda barely glanced at it. "That's nice," she said dismissively. Then she turned back to me. "Sarah, you understand, right? I need everything to be perfect. The video, the photos, I can't have any distractions." My daughter, her cerebral palsy, her determined spirit, all reduced to a distraction in Amanda's pursuit of perfection. "Of course," I replied, my tone arctic. "We wouldn't want to ruin your perfect day with our imperfections. In fact, maybe we shouldn't come at all." Amanda sighed. "Don't be dramatic. Of course you should come. Just keep her quiet during the ceremony. And try to dress her in something that doesn't make her leg braces too obvious." I was about to respond when my husband Tom, Amanda's brother, walked in. He must have read the tension in my face because he immediately came to stand beside me. "What's going on?" he asked, his hand finding mine. "Your sister just informed me that Lily can't be the flower girl because she walks funny," I said, loud enough for Lily to hear. It was time for honesty. "Apparently, she's not suitable for the perfect wedding." Tom's face darkened. "Amanda, you can't be serious." "It's my wedding," she snapped. "My day. Why is everyone trying to make me feel guilty about wanting it to be perfect?" "Mommy?" Lily's small voice cut through the tension. She had stopped coloring, her face confused and hurt. "Don't I get to throw the flowers anymore?" I watched Amanda's face, waiting for some sign of empathy, some recognition of the pain she was causing. Instead, she gathered her wedding planner and stood up. "I should go," she said. "I have a final dress fitting. The flower girl, the new one, is coming too. Her walk is just, well, better." As Amanda clicked her way out of our house in her expensive heels, Lily wheeled her walker over to me, her movements careful but determined. "Did I do something wrong, Mommy?" she asked, her lower lip trembling. "Is it because I'm too slow?" I pulled her into my lap, holding her close. "No, baby. You didn't do anything wrong. Aunt Amanda is the one who's wrong." Tom knelt beside us, his face a mix of anger and sadness. "I'll talk to her," he said. "Make her understand." But I shook my head. "No, we're not going to beg her to accept our daughter. Lily deserves better than that." That evening, after Lily was asleep, Tom and I sat on our back porch, the weight of the day settling around us. I could see the guilt eating at him, the pain of watching his sister reject his daughter. "Maybe we should skip the wedding," he suggested. "Show her she can't treat Lily like this." I took a sip of my tea, an idea forming in my mind. "No," I said slowly. "We're going to that wedding, and I'm going to make sure your sister never forgets it." "What are you planning?" Tom asked, knowing the look in my eyes. I smiled, thinking of the dance lessons Lily had been taking in secret, the hours of physical therapy she'd endured without complaint, the determination that drove her to try again every time she fell. "Just wait," I said. "Some things are worth more than being a flower girl, and your sister is about to learn that perfection comes in many forms." As I went to bed that night, I could hear Lily practicing in her room, counting her steps just like her dance teacher had taught her. 1, 2, 3, pause. 1, 2, 3, pause. Each step a victory, each movement a defiance of those who said she couldn't. Amanda had no idea what was coming. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about rising above, about showing the world that different doesn't mean less. And my daughter, with her wobbly walk and determined spirit, was about to prove just that. The next few weeks would test us all. But as I drifted off to sleep, I smiled, knowing that by the time Amanda's perfect wedding was over, everyone would see my daughter exactly as I did, not as the girl who walked funny, but as the girl who refused to let anything stop her from dancing. The day of Amanda's wedding arrived with picture-perfect weather. As we pulled up to the grand church, I watched through the rearview mirror as Lily took in the scene, the flowers, the decorations, the gathering crowd. She wore a beautiful blue dress we had chosen together, her leg braces proudly visible. "Remember what we practiced?" I whispered to her as Tom helped her out of the car. She nodded, her eyes shining with determination. "Just like in dance class, Mommy." We entered the church to find chaos in the bridal suite. Amanda's voice carried down the hallway, high-pitched and frantic. "What do you mean she's sick? She's supposed to be my flower girl. The ceremony starts in an hour." I shared a knowing look with Tom. The universe, it seemed, had its own sense of justice. Amanda burst out of the suite, her wedding dress rustling. Her eyes landed on us, specifically on Lily, and I could see the wheels turning in her head. "No," she said firmly, reading my expression. "Absolutely not." "Your flower girl has the stomach flu," I stated calmly. "Lily knows the route. She's been practicing." "Practicing?" Amanda laughed bitterly. "She can barely walk straight." Lily's small voice cut through the tension. "I can do it, Aunt Amanda. I've been working really hard." "Working hard at what?" Amanda scoffed. "This isn't one of your therapy sessions. This is my wedding." Tom stepped forward, his patience finally snapping. "That's enough, Amanda. Either Lily is your flower girl or we're leaving. Your choice." The silence that followed was deafening. Amanda looked between us, her perfectly made-up face contorting with conflict. Finally, she threw up her hands. "Fine, but if she ruins this—" "She won't," I said firmly, squeezing Lily's hand. The next hour was a blur of activity. The wedding coordinator quickly got Lily ready, pinning a small basket of rose petals to her walker, an adaptation we had planned for, just in case this opportunity arose. As the ceremony began, I stood at the back of the church with Lily, my heart pounding. Amanda had insisted on going last to check Lily's performance, probably hoping to stop her if things went wrong. "Ready, sweetheart?" I whispered. Lily nodded, gripping her walker, just like we practiced, Mommy. The music started, not the traditional wedding march, but something slower, more graceful. The coordinator gave Lily her cue, and she began her journey down the aisle. What happened next left everyone breathless. Lily, my beautiful, determined daughter, didn't just walk, she danced. Using her walker as a partner, she performed the routine we had spent months perfecting with her dance teacher. Each step was deliberate, graceful, timed perfectly to the music. She paused every few feet, carefully releasing one hand from her walker to scatter petals before continuing her choreographed movement. The walker became part of her dance, not a crutch, but an extension of her grace. The church was silent except for the music and the soft sound of petals hitting the floor. I saw tears in the eyes of the guests, not out of pity, but awe. This wasn't a child struggling to walk. This was an artist performing her masterpiece. Even Amanda stood frozen at the back of the church, her mouth slightly open as she watched her niece transform her perfectly planned wedding aisle into a stage. When Lily reached the altar, she did one final turn with her walker, scattering the last of her petals in a perfect arc. The guests burst into spontaneous applause, something I was sure had never happened at any of Amanda's wedding rehearsals. I watched as Amanda dabbed at her eyes, careful not to smudge her makeup, but I knew it wasn't just the emotion of her wedding day that had brought those tears. For the first time, she was truly seeing Lily. As Amanda began her own walk down the aisle, I noticed she had slowed her pace to match the rhythm Lily had set. Whether consciously or not, she was following in her niece's graceful footsteps. The rest of the ceremony proceeded according to plan, but something had shifted in the atmosphere. The perfectionism that had dominated every aspect of Amanda's wedding had been softened by something more genuine, the unscripted beauty of a little girl's determination. During the photo session, the photographer couldn't get enough of Lily. She kept positioning her front and center, fascinated by how the light caught her smiling face in her walker, now decorated with leftover rose petals. "She's a natural," the photographer said, showing me some of the shots. "These are going to be absolutely stunning." I watched as Amanda looked over our shoulders at the photos, her expression unreadable. The perfect wedding she'd planned had been upstaged by the very imperfection she had tried to hide. But this was only the beginning. What would happen at the reception would leave an even bigger impact on Amanda's perfect day. As we headed to the venue, I smiled, knowing that Lily's next surprise would challenge everything Amanda thought she knew about perfection. The question wasn't whether Amanda's wedding would be perfect anymore. It was whether she would finally understand that true perfection often comes in unexpected packages. The reception venue was exactly as Amanda had planned: elegant centerpieces, crystal chandeliers, and a gleaming dance floor waiting for the first dance. What she hadn't planned was what happened during the father-daughter dance. As the DJ announced the traditional dance, I gave Tom a subtle nod. He squeezed my hand and walked over to Amanda, who was still basking in the attention of her perfect wedding. But instead of moving to the dance floor, he turned to face the crowd. "Before I dance with my sister," Tom said into the microphone, his voice steady, "I'd like to share a special dance with my daughter." Amanda's head snapped up, but before she could protest, the music changed. The classical wedding playlist was replaced by "A Million Dreams" from The Greatest Showman, Lily's favorite song, and the one she'd been practicing to for months. Tom walked over to Lily, who was practically bouncing in her seat with excitement. "May I have this dance, princess?" The guests watched, curious, as Tom helped Lily to the center of the dance floor. She left her walker behind. She wouldn't need it for this. The routine began simply, Tom supporting Lily as they swayed to the music. But then, just as we had practiced, he lifted her onto his feet. Lily's face lit up with pure joy as they began to move together, her father compensating for every limitation her cerebral palsy imposed. They spun and glided across the floor, Lily's dress twirling around her leg braces. Tom lifted her into gentle spins, her laughter ringing out across the silent venue. Every movement was choreographed to work with her abilities, not against them. I glanced at Amanda, who stood frozen at the edge of the dance floor. Gone was the bride who had worried about perfect photos and flawless ceremonies. In her place was a woman watching her brother and niece redefine what perfect could mean. As the song reached its crescendo, Tom lifted Lily high into the air. She stretched out her arms like a bird in flight, completely trusting her father to keep her safe. When he brought her down, she wrapped her arms around his neck, and they finished the dance with a simple sway. The reception hall erupted in applause. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Even the DJ was wiping away tears. Amanda walked over to them, her carefully applied makeup slightly smudged. For a moment, she just stood there, looking at Lily as if seeing her for the first time. "I'm sorry," she finally whispered, kneeling to Lily's level. "I was so wrong. You made my wedding more beautiful than I ever could have imagined." Lily, with the pure forgiveness of a child, simply hugged her aunt. "It's okay. Want to see me dance again?" Amanda laughed through her tears. "I want to see you dance every chance I get." The rest of the reception became something entirely different from what Amanda had planned. The rigid schedule was forgotten as Lily took to the dance floor again and again, sometimes with her father, sometimes using her walker as a partner. Other guests joined her, following her lead, learning that dance didn't have to be perfect to be beautiful. Later that night, as we were getting ready to leave, the photographer showed us some preview shots on her camera. There was Lily scattering petals in her choreographed walk down the aisle, her face glowing with concentration. There was her dance with Tom, caught mid-spin, joy radiating from both their faces. But my favorite was a candid shot. Amanda sitting next to Lily, both of them laughing as they tried to copy each other's dance moves. The bride's perfect hair had come slightly undone, her carefully planned facade cracked open to reveal something much more precious. "These are the most beautiful wedding photos I've ever taken," the photographer said. "They tell a real story." As we drove home that night, Lily fell asleep in her car seat, still wearing her dance dress, a smile on her tired face. Tom reached over and squeezed my hand. "You knew this would happen, didn't you?" he asked. "When you and Lily started those secret dance lessons." I smiled, thinking of all the hours of practice, all the falls and triumphs that had led to this moment. I knew Lily would show everyone exactly who she is, not despite her cerebral palsy, but with it. It's part of her dance, part of her story. 2 weeks later, Amanda came to visit. She brought the official wedding photos, but she also brought something else. A registration form for a dance class she wanted to take with Lily. If my niece can dance, she said, then her aunt can learn to dance with her. Sometimes the most perfect moments come from the things we once thought would ruin our perfect plans. Amanda's wedding hadn't been the flawless event she had imagined. It had been something far better. It had been real, beautiful, and unforgettable, just like Lily's dance.